How's it going, guys? Today we're going to be obviously talking about the interview stage of the outreach process, right? So we've covered how to land roles that pay you 5, 10, 15, 20K per month on Instagram and YouTube. How to actually outreach for these roles. What are good things to look for and bad things to look for before you even outreach to these people. And now we're obviously going to be discussing the interview. So firstly, I want to mention something that I didn't mention um, in the previous kind of videos is when you're outreaching to these people, you don't want to do the qualification and like these interview questions in the DMs. You want to jump on a call as soon as possible, right? You want to always push the outreach to an interview as soon as possible. That is the next stage. You don't want to spend too much time in the DMs because then you're slowing the whole process down and things can get lost in translation for the business owner and also for yourself. So this is incredibly important throughout the entire process. We're always pushing to do everything on the interview. And yeah, let's get into it. So first thing to say and note is the interview is not about them choosing you. It's about kind of showing them that you're an A player, right? You need to qualify them. That's the kind of attitude you need to have. Now, you don't need to have a big ego and cockiness, but it's about confidence, right? You're showing them that you are someone very capable of making them a lot of money. Because at the end of the day, like, do not undervalue and underestimate your role that you play for this company that you might be working with. You are going to be making them a lot of money, right? So you need to basically assess if their offer is worth your time. And you also need to demonstrate your sales skills in real time, and we'll get to that because I'm sure you can show your objection handling skills in my notes here. But what I want to say is you need to treat this almost like a sales call, right? You need to try and lead the frame, not follow it, right? Obviously, it's an interview process. They have a system. Like, don't try and stop them from asking you questions like you would on a sales call. But you need to like show them that you are maintaining the frame. You are an authority figure in your own right because you are very good at sales, right? You should always be confident in your sales abilities before you jump on the interview, because something to keep in mind is they might ask you to role play on these interviews, right? So you need to be very confident. Before the interview, you should actually be practicing the offer that they have. So for example, if you have an interview with a coach who teaches people how to make money online with drop shipping, you do a lot of role plays with that scenario, right? Because that is going to help a lot, because it's also for you, right? If you feel like the interview hasn't gone so well and you're very confident in this aspect, you basically propose it to them. You're like, look, I'd love to do a role play to really show you my skills and to show you that I'm the right person for the job. Now, look at it like this. Like I said, it's a sales call. Like, if you can sell yourself in an interview, then you've already proven to them that you can sell for their offer. So remember that. You don't want to work for a bad company, right? The wrong company is going to waste your time and it's going to cap your income. And that's the last thing that we want to do here. So it's very important that we actually vet them correctly. And I'll give you some questions to ask them as well, because it's super important. But let's go into like the pre-interview due diligence, right? So before you even hop on a call, you need to discuss with them and research. Actually, it's not discuss with them. You need to research the founder, right? Look at the social media, the content that they're putting out there on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it may be. Understand who their clientele is, right? Understand who they're selling to, the audience size, understand their success stories, understand everything, right? Try and find as much as you can about what they do. Try and go through their funnel, right? Try and go through their landing page with the VSL on it. Get creative, and you want to basically be showing them that you know exactly who they are and what they do. You want to look for testimonials and reviews because we know how important that is. And then we also want to make sure that they fit the winning offer criteria from previously what we've spoken about as well. Now, step kind of 2 is how do we want to come off in these interviews? So this is incredibly important. Confidence. So not ego, confidence. We don't want to come across as needy. You're a closer. You're not just a regular applicant begging for a job. You know your value. You know exactly what you offer them, and you have that confidence within yourself. On top of that, you're coming off curious, right? You're asking smart, specific questions, because asking good questions is a skill of sales, right? And by asking good questions on the interview, you are showing them that you can sell well. And on top of that, it's also showing them that you actually care. And finally, what it shows them is they're way more likely to remember you if you ask good questions, right? You leave a very good impression. First impressions matter. Another thing to mention, similar, I may not have mentioned this in the outreach video, but you want to have a clean background, right? In an office, you want to take it where you would be taking closing calls or whatever, because people are going to judge, you, quite simply. That's just the name of the game, right? So turn up wearing clothes that are smart, that you take sales calls with, right? You're not going to wear a super baggy hoodie with no haircut, you haven't shaved, or whatever it is, right? You want to look smart, you want to look ready. Just because it's online, don't treat it like a slob, right? You should be taking care of yourself always. And this is just a way to show them that you take care of yourself, because something to note is the way they look at you might be, okay, as a business owner, I believe that, the way someone does one thing is the way that person does everything. So if this person isn't able to look after themselves, how am I going to trust them to look after their responsibilities in my business? Okay. So on top of that, you need to be focused on the results as well when you come off in the right way. Speak with metrics, understand how many calls are they booking? How many closes are they getting? What's their show rate? What's the revenue? And yeah, you also want to show them that you have the right kind of culture that they're looking for. So feel free, like, I'm not saying like crack too many jokes, but like be yourself, right? Because you never want to work on an offer where you can't be yourself. So always be yourself. Don't feel like you have to be any different, because you want to be working with someone that you can be yourself with, because business is like relationships, right? You want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend or whatever, and you want to be yourself. Same with business. You want to be yourself, because you don't want to, show up on sales calls having to feel like you need to be this different person, because then it's going to mess up your close rate. And it's the same with the company meetings and everything. So that's super important. Now, what are some good questions to ask in the interview? So, great question. Can you walk me through how a lead becomes a booked call in the closer's calendar? AKA, explain your funnel. That's basically what it is. Explain your funnel, how you're generating attention, how you're converting that attention into calls booked. That is a super important thing for you to understand, whether you're a setter or a closer, because if you understand that this company is getting all their bookings from YouTube, then you're going to make a lot of money. However, if you know that this business is cold calling a bunch of people who have no idea who you are, and then they're putting you on a sales call, and again, they don't really know who you are, and they're kind of like just doing it because they're curious more than anything, then you know that it's a much harder sell, right? So that is super important to understand. Then, what you want to understand as well, where are the meetings coming from? Paid traffic, organic, in terms of like always meetings should be coming to you as a business owner and as a closer. You should never be looking out for them, right? It should always be coming from advertising or organic content. Again, no cold calling. We don't waste our time with any cold outreach whatsoever. However, if you are extremely new to sales, potentially consider landing a cold outreach job, but note that it is not going to make you a lot of money, but it is going to be worth the experience, so that when you land a better interview, you have more sales experience to discuss. Then, how are the current closers performing? What is the show up rate? What is the close rate? How much are they earning? This is super important to understand, because you can actually start to see the numbers if they match up or not. I would always recommend coming to an interview with a notepad and pen, because then you can write everything down, and at the end you can run the numbers and see if it makes sense to what they were saying. Data is extremely important in business. So If a business doesn't have the data, that's a bit of a red flag, in my opinion. Then, so the second thing is, if the business owner is telling you these numbers and they don't add up, then that is also a red flag as well. So that is also incredibly important. Then, how many calls can I expect in my calendar per week? That's for you to know. Do you have testimonials or client case studies? You should know this from doing the pre-interview due diligence, but it's always good to ask as well. Another thing to understand, is there a guarantee, right? Guarantees are a bit old-fashioned nowadays because the market is a bit kind of has seen the word guarantee thrown around way too much. So a lot of companies avoid guarantees altogether. However, some companies still offer guarantees, and that's important to understand if you are closing deals or even setting meetings, because it can help with the conversion. How long has the company been around? What are the opportunities for growth? What is the commission structure? Are there any performance incentives, right? So that's always a great thing to ask. Don't just ask the commission structure. Frame it as, also like, what is the commission structure, and are there performance, bonuses? Because that basically, the way you frame that question is the last thing that you mentioned, which is what people listen to the most, is performance-based incentives. So you're curious and you want to know, okay, if I perform really well, do I get a bonus for that? Then how many setters and how many closers are currently on the team? Again, this is super important to understand, because then we can understand the metrics and see if they add up. And revenue generated per month as well is a great thing to understand too. Now, show your objection handling skills during the interview. So a lot of the time in the interview process, it's going to be a case of them saying at the end, okay, so we're interviewing other people as well, so we'll just get back to you. Now, what most people do is they say, okay, sounds good. What you want to do, because you're an A player closer, is you want to handle that objection, because that's all it is, right? It's the same as if, a prospect or someone that was interested in buying were hopping on a sales call with you, and they said, yeah, I have other calls with other companies, with your competitors, and I'm going to get back to you. And no, you wouldn't let that slide. You would handle the objection. So it's the exact same thing. And you want to show them that, because what that is doing is it's your chance to demonstrate, right, what you are going to do for their prospects and on their sales calls. Okay, so a great way to handle that is, I totally understand that you're talking to other candidates. Like, out of curiosity, do you believe that I can deliver results for you? They will usually say yes if you've done well. Then ask them, why do you feel that way? So the same thing that we do with objection handling. We tie down the value that they just see in us, rather than the value in what we're selling. Because in this case, what we're selling is us. So you say that, you get them to explain why. And then we say, so if you feel that, I'm the right fit, out of curiosity, what do you feel like is the risk in locking me in today so I can start producing results for you right away? Worst case scenario, if it doesn't work out, you still have other candidates in mind. But best case scenario, I'm already generating revenue while others are still sending in resumes, while others are, rescheduling interviews, and you're going through the whole interview process. That is incredibly important. What it does is it allows you to, the focus that you're putting with this objection handle is, I'm focused on your results. Yeah, of course I want to make money, but I've framed it as, I want you to make money, right? I want you to make money as soon as possible, and I don't want you wasting time hiring people. So if you believe in me, let's just get the show on the road. It also kind of forces their hand almost to justify why they're waiting. So it's going to allow you to get more clarity. You don't want to push too much. So this is why I've only given you this as an objection handle. So what I would recommend is going back, writing all the questions down, or as pause, writing them. Same with the objection handle, because this is going to show that you're incredibly confident on to close on the spot. But like I was saying, you don't want to push too hard, because at the end of the day, if they see that you're a good fit and you're pushing and pushing and pushing, that's not what you want to do. You don't want to do that. You just want to do this one objection handle, demonstrate that you're, an A player, and that you would objection handle even on an interview the same way you would as on a sales call. And that is very powerful because it leaves a great impression. They're not going to forget you, right? Even if they don't necessarily make that decision on that call, you move right up to the top of their decision making, right? Unless there's something like experience being like a huge thing, but still, most of the time, experience isn't a deal breaker for a lot of people, right? As long as you smash everything and you show them that you're capable and you're coachable and you're hungry and you absolutely crush it and you make a great start when you actually work for them, then you'll land the role, right? I hear this so many times. What if I don't have experience? What if I don't have experience? We've covered what you need to do if you don't have experience, right? In previous episodes. But again, like, you should be role playing a lot. You should be understanding everything about a sales call, that you have the confidence that if they were to put you on sales calls, that you're going to close, right? And basically, right, what you're looking for in their answers is a clear sales process. So you understand how they're getting leads, how they're getting meetings, everything. You want to understand that they have consistent lead flow, because that's important. You want to understand the previous closers and setters that they have actual real tangible results, so that if you were to jump on, you could earn similar. Then you want to understand that they have a strong offer, right? They get real results. They have testimonials, they have case studies, they have all of this. And then on top of that, you want to make sure that you have a commission structure that rewards performance and there is room for growth. Very simple. An interview is literally your first sales call, right? You're the product. So don't answer questions. Don't just do that. Like, obviously they're going to ask you questions, but don't just answer questions. Ask questions. Lead the conversation. Qualify them, right? Show your skills by handling their objection in real time. Because if you can't close yourself into a role, why would they believe that you can close prospects for their offer? Right? So that is some serious sauce that I've just dropped for you guys. If you've missed anything, rewatch it, take the notes down. And yeah, that's literally everything for today, guys. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow.